Mirror, compared ourselves to pictures and heard the name ugly. When we've been left by loved ones, people we trusted once, and heard the name unworthy. When we've been drowning in discouragement, living in a seemingly never-ending crisis, and heard the name forgotten. When we've had our hopes up and our hearts open, only to be brought down by closed doors, and we've heard rejected. When we've looked for infinite, affirming love through lesser, physical, fleshly versions. When we gave it away, or when it was stolen, and we heard impure, we heard garbage. When we go to other vices to ease our pain, and we hear addict, we hear forever broken. When we feel like we're living in the shadow of someone else's calling, and we hear second place. When our pain cripples us to a point where we don't even know how to let others in, and we hear lonely. When our past seems too gross for others to forgive, and we hear disgusting. It's overwhelming. These voices we're constantly hearing. It's suffocating. This air of constant critique and comparing, and it's sort of amazing. The people whose voices I've allowed to name me. The power I've given to my past, to my mirror, and to my surroundings, and enabled them to identify me. The amount of years I've spent living up to whatever others say over me. But God says something else about me. It's like he knew there would be other voices, so he wrote his voice down in a timeless book of truth that would remind us over and over again in the moments when lies would block his truth and somehow make us forget. So I'm going back to the source, not the people I've allowed to represent God to me, but the actual, literal, tangible words that he has written down for me. And there's some other names he's given to me. John 15:15, he calls me friend. 1 Thessalonians 1:4, he calls me chosen. Ephesians 2:10, he calls me his workmanship. He calls me his art. He calls me handmade. He calls me purposed and fashioned for good things. 1 Corinthians 6:19, he calls my body a temple. He calls it the residence of the Holy Spirit. Acts 1:8, he calls me his messenger to the world. Galatians 3:26, he calls me his child. Romans 5:8, he calls me greatly loved. John 8:36, he calls me free, free indeed. 2 Corinthians 5:17, he calls me brand new. And it's amazing how different these names are from the names I'm used to listening to. And in my journey to discover who I really am, in my battle to uncover the truths of myself, I've learned something new about my name, and now this is what I am certain of. My name is not the name the world calls me. My name is not the name my past calls me. My name is not even the name my own mirror calls me, but my name is the name I answer to. And I can choose today, from this moment forward, to answer to a new name. When I hear lonely, that's not me. When I hear disgusting, that's not me. When I hear unworthy, I don't even look over my shoulder. When I hear broken, they must have confused me. Please look elsewhere. When I hear ugly, abandoned, useless, forgotten, I figure someone just has to remind them. Maybe those were my old names, but they're no longer the names that I'll respond to. My name is the name I've chosen to spend my days living up to. And if these other voices are not saying the same thing that the truth is, I look in my mirror and I repeat this. They have no right to be speaking to you. When you stop answering to your old names, they stop having power over you. The names that my Father, eternity's author, the world's creator has called me are the only names that I answer to. So when I hear friend of God, gone back. I know for some of us, we know we're some of these new names, but some of them we've never answered to. We know we're God's workmanship, but we don't know that we're chosen. We know that our body's a temple, but we don't know that we are his friend. And I believe, because I believe in a God that makes all things new, I believe in a God whose mercies are new every morning, that every one of us still have a new name that we can answer to today. We talked this morning about how Jesus came to give us an abundant life, a super added life. And a big part of that was that he was coming not to just give us a super added life, not to just give us an abundant life. Jesus came to say, I declare war over what they said about you in school. I declare war over the lies that were told about you behind closed doors. I declare war over the moments you have in front of the mirror every morning when you don't know if it's worth it. I'm here to declare war. I'm ready on my weapons, and I just need you to answer to a new name, to claim who you are, who you've been all along. And before I give us a chance to answer to a new name, I just want you to know if there's a new name that you really hope is you, the new name that's stirring up inside of you that you really want to answer to, you don't think if you're there yet, I want you to know that I get it. When I married my husband, I changed my last name to his, which if you're a chick in the room, isn't that such a weird thing that we do? No one tells you you have to take 2 months off of work to change your name on all the IDs and credit cards everywhere. It's weird. I changed my last name to his, and what was rough was that I did all the wedding things. I got the white dress, I picked the appetizers, I walked down the aisle. But when I had to live out this new name, I wasn't very good at it. I would always forget that my new last name was my new last name. People would call me by my old last name and I'd still answer to it. People would call me by my new last name, I'd forget it was me. I had a lot of scribbled out checks, which I don't recommend if you're at the bank, it looks fishy. Lots of scribbled out checks. And I felt so horrible. I went to my husband with all of this guilt and shame and emotion. You can imagine it was 3 minutes and it rhymed and it was great. And I said, I feel so guilty. I feel so horrible. I know I'm not a great wife. I can't even sign my last name right. Are you so embarrassed to be married to me? And you know what he said? He said the most profound thing that a husband can ever say to a wife. He looked at me and he said, Hosanna, I don't care. Words of affirmation is not his love language. He said to me, you've answered to a whole different name your whole life. Of course, it would take you a reasonable amount of time to answer to a new name. Hosanna, let's be reasonable. And my husband has more grace for me than I have for me sometimes. And God has more grace for us than we have for us sometimes. He's not as sick of us as we are of us. And he wants us to take a reasonable amount of time because some of us have answered to some old names our whole lives. Of course, it's going to take us a reasonable amount of time to answer to this new name, but he can handle your scribbled out checks. He can handle you accidentally answering to the old name a couple times. He came to declare war on the moments when you have so much shame you don't get up again. So this is what we're going to do. Before we sing this chorus out loud, I'm giving each and every one of us the chance to boldly answer to a new name. I have one too that I'm working on. All 9 of these names in my spoken word piece, I'm going to say again. And when you hear the name that you know you want to boldly answer to, even if it's not perfect yet, even if you think it'll be a little sloppy, I'm going to ask you to boldly stand and answer to your new name. And if you have to answer to a couple of new names, that's cool. Stay standing. At the end, we're all going to be standing because I'm sick and tired of the enemy's victory coming into our lives, of our identities. It's time for us to get our boldness back and proclaim who we are in Jesus. So if you need an answer to John 15:15, he calls you friend. I'm going to ask you to stand to your feet. Nice to meet you, friend. I see you. Nice to meet you, friend. All the friends in this section. Nice to meet you, friend. This is what it means when you're God's friend. You're never lonely. You're never alone. You are
selfless. Share that story before it's memorized, before it's published, before it's perfect. Because you are a messenger. Acts 1:8 says so. Romans 5:8, he calls you greatly loved. Who here needs to answer greatly loved? Not the kind of love we learned in school. Not the kind of love we learned behind closed doors. But an all the time, over the top, super addict kind of love. That loves you even when you don't love it back. Who here needs to answer John 8:36? Free indeed. Your childhood was stolen from you. I think God is